So I knew someone was going to go with it. I figured I'd switch it up a little bit.
I don't even understand how they like set that line because there's like literally no data that he's ever started a game, you know?
Yeah, what is going on, baby? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Live Before Lock Show, Thursday night showdown edition between the Denver Broncos and the banged up skeleton crew Cleveland Browns, but we're here to talk about it. Matter of fact, I love this stuff. Dave Loughran, along with Ben Rasa and Alex Baker, rocking the shades today. Awesemo himself, #1 ranked DFS player out there. Feeling good today, huh, man?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I know, like you guys know that behind the scenes here on these shows, we have the bright lights, so I'm trying to protect my eyes.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Ben, you like crap games. I mean, just through and through. You like bad football games, bad basketball games. You're a habitual underbetter. So this is right up your alley.
Yeah, it's literally perfect. It's the Browns too, who I seemingly can't quit. Haven't given up hope even after the disgraceful performance last week. But yeah, we got a low total. We got two teams that are hurting, but honestly, it is a big game for these teams. I think both of them really are going to need this one when they look back.
Yeah, no question. Oh my God. Yeah, we got almost, wow. All right, 800 plus people watching right now. It just started. Let's go. Let's go. 100 likes. Didn't even ask for them yet. All right, we're in business today. Listen, I promise you, I know sometimes we can go a bit long on these shows. Because we don't have the deeper dive, straight live before lock, we're going to get into everything. Make sure we've got you guys set and ready to go by the time lock hits in just about 40 minutes. So hit that thumbs up. Wow. Okay. 219. You see this, boy? We're just cruising already. Maybe we need to do this more often. 2 NBA shows and then straight into NFL. Create some pressure, Subscribe to that channel too if you haven't done so yet. Working our way towards 70. Always going to have free content here. And you know what? You don't need to subscribe to watch it. But if you want to, and you want to know when we got new content coming out, and you just want to help support us, hit that subscribe button. All right, let's dive into it. Ben, kick it off with you. Like I said, we're no time for pleasantries here. You've got the Denver Broncos. Bridgewater's going to play 19, an implied total of 19.25. So not exactly expected to score a ton of points today. Only 1.5 point dogs, though, given that Cleveland's entire team is decimated. Let's start it off with Teddy Bridgewater. What are we doing with him? He was questionable. He is playing. I'm assuming he'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to really factor in how hurt he is. I think we have no idea. He's going to play. So it's going to be out there. I think the interesting thing about Teddy Bridgewater and this team is how wide the range of outcomes can be in terms of his volume. We saw it last week against the Raiders. They were consistently trailing. It devolved. He threw the ball 49 times. Then he's had some other games that have been much more methodical, much more conservative, no interceptions, barely any touchdowns either when they get ahead. They started the season 3-0. They are now 3-3. So it's kind of a tale of two teams in a lot of ways. They're not nearly as run heavy as the Browns want to be, but at the same time, I still think this is a team that at times can vary in their attack, even though they are clearly the more pass heavy team between the two.
I kind of like the over in this game.
I would have liked it more if Drew Lock was playing.
Yeah, but I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's opening it up. Do you know Cortland Sutton leads the league in deep targets by 4? He's got 18 deep targets in 6 games. They are airing it out. That's all I'm saying. It's not this conservative Teddy Bridgewater like it has been in the past. I don't know, Alex. I mean, Teddy's coming into this one. Jerry Jeudy was not activated from the injured reserve, but you still have Sutton. You have Tim Patrick, who's played well. Noah Fant's been on and off, but he's had a couple really big games. And then you have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon in the backfield. I feel like they can put some points up today. And this Cleveland Browns secondary, to be fair, they've gotten tuned up in back-to-back weeks. Is Teddy Bridgewater someone you're looking to captain today? Are you looking to get him into a lot of lineups in the flex? Where are you at on him?
So first, I want to mention that this game has 22-mile-an-hour winds. So it is pretty rough conditions for passing. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater has been pretty solid this year so far. And I agree with you on every point that you mentioned, except that I just feel like the conditions in this game are going to be tough for the deep ball. So I mean, he looks like one of the best options of the slate, despite this, because I mean, this slate really has no like star players other than maybe Cortland Sutton. So quarterbacks just throwing the ball like a consistent number of times are going to be your most consistent fantasy players today.
Where are you going with Cortland Sutton? I mentioned that the deep targets for him have been really absurd this year. And I would have thought he'd need Drew Lock for that, but he doesn't. He's been targeted 12, 5, 8, 11, and 14 times over his last 5 games. And he leads the team in red zone targets. You can almost expect there to be some positive touchdown regression there. And then Noah Fant's played well too. Meanwhile, even Tim Patrick as the wide receiver too, given that KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy are both out, he probably still would have been even if Hamler was in. But they do have some decent enough passing options today. So even though there aren't any real studs, there's no McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook or Tyreek Hill, we do have some good players on this Denver pass catching options for the Broncos.
No doubt. Yeah, I think that Cortland Sutton is definitely the number one guy we should be looking at for Denver on the skill positions. He's been running routes on 90% of plays, and he's been targeted 23% of the time. That leads the slate for Denver. So he's definitely the most reliable. Noah Fant is running routes 84% of the time and targeted 21%, so a little bit lower in both categories. So I think Cortland Sutton is your best bet as far as receivers in this game.
Yeah, Ben, I like Sutton quite a bit here, just given the amount of volume he's seen. And again, the troubles that the Cleveland Browns secondary has dealt with recently. I mean, Justin Herbert carved them up. Kyler Murray made mincemeat out of them. I mean, I am not saying Teddy Bridgewater is either of those guys, but when you only have one game to choose from, I don't mind looking that way.
I mean, clearly, yeah, we have to deal with the cards we've been dealt. I don't think that this passing attack is even near the level of the Chargers or the Cardinals. But at the same time, it is true that the Browns have struggled on both sides of the ball. The interesting thing to me, and I'm not going to push back, I obviously like Cortland Sutton too, but in the prop world, it's not like he's drastically different than these other Broncos pass catchers. We have, receptions across the board here at 4.5, minus 120 to the over. Noah Fant is at 3.5. And he's well juiced to the over. Then you've got guys like Tim Patrick at 3.5 as well. So of course, Cortland Sutton probably commands the most, but it's not a runaway thing where he is just going to dominate target share. The Broncos do have other pass catchers that can get involved. And then we didn't even mention the running backs. Both Williams and Gordon can catch the ball.
All right. So Ben, let me stick with you for a second. Noah Fant, you've got him coming in right now. Our projected ownership on Noah Fant is 39%. Top play probability, which by the way, Dearness Johnson in our top plays tool for the Showdown slate has the highest top play probability of anyone on the slate. We'll get to him. Noah Fant's at 7%, optimal captain at 4.7%. And he's just kind of been, I'll use the word again, enigmatic in the sense that like big game and then kind of disappears, big game disappears. Where do you stand on him today, given his salary?
I mean, salary is an interesting, there are some restrictions, but at the same time, there are so many guys injured that it's really not that hard to play basically whoever you want. So more concerned about leverage than anything else. I think Noah Fant is certainly viable. He's a guy that's really emerged at times as a big time target, 25 targets over the last 3 games. 2 of those was over, north of 10. He can obviously be a red zone threat. I like him. I think that that's where they can kind of attack Cleveland. I bet his over on receptions. I think that he's one of the more likely scorers for the Broncos. So I don't mind going to Noah Fant. I think he's going to have a big role in this game.
And you're right, man. Somebody said this, I lost it. Should screenshot that. We got 300 likes without asking for them. So that Josh needs to see that immediately because that is an accomplishment within an accomplishment without doing anything. And you guys are great for that. So I appreciate it. What about Kendall Hinton? Kendall Hinton, the guy who last year, Alex, was thrust into a quarterback role for Denver. They got smoked by New Orleans, but here he is with 5, 3, and 3 targets over his last 3 games, 63% of snaps last time out. No Jerry Jeudy, no KJ Hamler. It stands to reason that on a slate like this, you could get production out of him. The only caveat here, and this is where strategy comes into play that you could hopefully help us with, is you don't really need to go this cheap.
Yeah, so I think Hinton, it's a good thing he's not quarterbacking in this game, and he's playing wide receiver. But he's been the guy in the last 2 weeks. His playing time's really picked up. In the last 2 weeks, he's been out there about 2/3 of the time. Before that, it was minimal. So I expect that to see that again because there hasn't been any personnel changes for the Broncos. So he's not been targeted a ton when he's out there, but there aren't very many guys that are going to be out there as much as him. And I mean, we're going to need to mix it up today because it's really easy to put together a lineup of all the best plays. So we need some of these secondary guys that can outscore them.
It does feel like, Ben, this could be one of those slates where leaving a significant amount of salary on the table ends up taking down a milli.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's not that hard because there's just not that many players at the top. I mean, there are so many guys that are injured that would normally garner ownership and change the builds that it's almost like a pick 'em. And then it becomes pure game theory in the sense that, you know, you're choosing between like Cortland Sutton or Kendall Hinton. Obviously, Cortland Sutton's going to outscore him probably 8 out of 10, but the 2 times he doesn't, that can make the difference in some of these large field tournaments. So I'm not just saying wildly change it up, but clearly on a slate like tonight with an ugly game, I mean, there's a lot of outcomes where this game is, you know, 14-3, 10-3, like some really ugly things can happen. Really changes how we can build this slate.
Ben, what are you doing with the backfield? This is one of the most interesting spots of the season because it's not like you're saying, well, I like him, but this guy's a lot cheaper as a backup. Maybe the starter gets hurt or maybe he just struggles and the backup comes in. You're looking at a near 50-50 split throughout the entirety of the season between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. And I know people are apoplectic on Twitter saying, oh, I can't believe this. It's crazy. Williams needs to get to work. And he has been better, but it's not like Melvin Gordon's been bad. And at this point, there's just no way to – I'm not saying it won't happen. It could happen sooner than later. But there's no way right now to project for one of these guys getting significantly more work than the other.
No doubt. I do think, and Alex talks about this a lot on this very show, that when you have timeshares and whatnot, it can be a good thing because there's a lot of variance potentially. And sometimes teams tend to ride the hot hand within the game. It doesn't mean long-term it won't, you know, regress to maybe one of them taking over or back to the timeshare. But you can confidently go to these guys. I certainly think if you're trying to be sneaky, maybe you pair them up. A lot of people are not going to do that for obvious reasons, but you would capture all of the production on the ground if you hope that the game is really low scoring and maybe Denver controls on the ground. That could be a very interesting tournament strategy, but it's not obviously my preferred build.
What about you in this backfield, Alex?
Yeah, I like the idea of taking both of them. Either one of them is fine. Really completely interchangeable from my perspective. Melvin Gordon has been getting slightly more work through the air, but they're running the ball almost exactly the same amount. As far as skill level, I don't really see much differentiating them either. So I think they're both good. I do like the idea that their playing time is linked in a way where if right now we have Denver projected to run the ball 23 times, but if that increased to like 35 because they're up a lot, then both of them should see that bump because they've been splitting it about 50-50. So I think there is some correlation to Denver winning this game and both of those guys going off.
Yeah, I think there is. And honestly, the thing about Denver today, Alex, is I think you can make a pretty good argument in tournaments for anybody, whether it's Patrick, Sutton, Bridgewater, Fant, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, even Kendall Hinton down there if you wanted to get different and leave some salary or just load up everywhere else. Like, I'm not sure there's an awful option that's going to be on the field getting snaps today that you can just say, I want nothing to do with them, especially for Showdown.
Yeah, definitely. And that's mainly because there aren't very many other guys getting snaps for Denver. There's really no one else that even has enough playing time to make a winning lineup. Maybe Eric Saubert. We know the tight ends get there in Showdown.
Yeah, every single time it feels like it's you're right. But really, he's mostly blocking. Like Noah Fant's playing most of the snaps. Ben, and then I want to move over to Cleveland. We're making pretty good time here, though. There's just no one really here, unless you're looking at like a Tyree Cleveland or something. It's essentially Sutton, Patrick, Hinton, Fant, and then the 2 running backs.
Yeah, I mean, there's always I don't even remember the guy's name on the Bills. Like there are guys that emerge from.
Oh, I remember his name. Come on, dude. He came straight out of the Boondock Saints. Tommy Sweeney.
Tommy Sweeney. There you go. There's the Tommy Sweeneys of the world, but again, that's, if you're active, you're kind of in play at the bottom there. I think there's a difference between those guys and then guys like Kendall Hinton and people who have a role in this game, even though it could be not a sizable one. The other interesting part, I guess I got to ask you, Alex, because this is your domain. You mentioned it could be really windy. What do you do with the kickers then? Like, do you really bump them down there, saying maybe they're not as prone to they'll go for it more often, or do you say it doesn't really matter?
So I think the kickers tonight are a little bit worse than your typical slate, partly because of the wind. I mean, what I usually look at, since I guess I don't spend a ton of time trying to analyze kickers, but what I look at is the props that these sports books offer. And right now, the number of field goals that Cleveland's projected to have is, I mean, both of the lines are 1.5, but usually there's juice on the over. Today, there's juice on the under. So more often than not, Cleveland's going to get 1 or 0 field goals. Denver, it's about 50-50, whether they get 1 or more than 1. So that's not very great odds. Like, I think you really need 2 field goals for your kicker to sneak into the optimal lineup at least. So I definitely think the win is a factor here with kickers.
Hugo says, I feel like Alex is going to hop on a police bike and start pulling dudes over after the show. That's solid. It does. There's definitely a tinge of that there. Ben, any thoughts on the defense for the Broncos today with Case Keenum on the other side and just a really banged up offense for Cleveland?
Certainly in a game that we don't know. This could be, who knows? There could be 75 combined points. I said doubtful though. If there's overall less fantasy points total in the game, that does really help both defenses just because, their range of outcomes is a little smaller. So I get going there. I think the problem is in games like this, a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, got to go defense. It's going to be so low scoring and the ownership can creep up in a hurry. So I have no problem with it. I still think that Case Keenum's a pretty good player. I think of all the backups in the league, he would be one of my preferred guys if my quarterback got hurt.
Alex, any thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, defense definitely a solid option tonight, especially because kickers are deprioritized because of the wind. The also higher wind means more chance of interceptions. So I think defenses are very solid plays today. I mean, I agree with Ben that everyone else is going to be thinking that same way. So I still don't mind having decent exposure to these.
Yeah. Ben, I was reading the chat. Did you say you would be fine going with like Broncos defense plus Case Keenum?
Oh yeah, I have no problem with that. I was just saying that although Keenum is quote unquote a backup, I don't think that the drop off from a wounded Baker to Case Keenum is that big.
Gotcha. You're right. In all seriousness, like given Baker's production, just lack thereof last week, Keenum in terms of like turnover probability might actually be worse for the Broncos defense than last week's Baker Mayfield.
I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. All right. I think that's it for the Broncos. Talk to me about no house advantage. Actually, let me talk to you about no house advantage. Ben, you can talk to people about no house advantage too, because as we know, the biggest advantage there is the fact that these props aren't going to change. I feel like tonight's a perfect example of that, where you look at like an Odell Beckham, who a lot of props were just set for him not to play, and now he's active.
No doubt about it. And it's a domino effect. A guy like Rashard Higgins is on no house advantage. He was obviously going to be worked in a lot more before Landry and Odell came back. And now I don't think he's going to be a priority on this offense, but look at his prop. It's still stuck at 2.5 receptions. So you have massive opportunities there to react to the late news. They don't have the luxury of changing their lines, and that is where the big edge comes in.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, nohouseadvantage.com or App Store or in the Google Play Store. It's an entirely different way to enjoy playing DFS. Straight player prop contest. You put them into your own lineup like you would at any other site, but there's no salary cap, okay? What you're doing simply is you're taking player props, the ones you like the most, put them at the top of your lineup. They get the most points if they're right. They also lose well, if the ones at the bottom you're least confident in, they get the fewest points. You get points throughout the lineup for right and wrong. You're trying to get as many right as possible. Obviously, they get over 500 player props offered over there. It's 100% peer-to-peer to help level the playing field. And the prize pools just keep getting bigger. But these are the biggest things. We talked about the fact that, and this is how you build your bankroll over there and how you sustainably win at a place like No House Advantage when some of these other sites are just so much tougher. Like, yeah, you're chasing that milli, but the odds of getting there, a lot less likely profiting in that contest than you would at No House Advantage because, one, all of the props are static. Get an edge by looking at other spots. And more importantly, looking at our free No House Advantage player prop projections that are giving you the edge you need, and you don't have to pay a cent for it. They're free every day of the week. So are the No House Advantage Optimal Lineups tool. All of that at awesemo.com. You don't have to pay for any of that. So check that out. Use it over there at No House Advantage. And when you sign up, use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Get your $25 when you sign up and deposit for the first time. Use our tools, totally free. Check out the props. Make sure you're paying attention to what guys are in or out and what lines should have moved and have moved elsewhere, but haven't moved at No House Advantage, and find a legitimate edge over there. Download it in the App Store, Google Play Store, go to nohouseadvantage.com, start making some money. All right, Alex, let's talk about the Browns here. We've got Cleveland laying 1.5 points at home. Should be a competitive game, and I say that loosely, just in the sense that it should be close. There's no Baker Mayfield, as we've stated a million times. What are we doing with Case Keenum today? And how often do you see yourself getting him into the captain spot and stacking with pass catchers in your lineups?
Yeah, I think that Keenum is a fairly solid play today. Yeah, I agree with Ben. He's one of the better backups in the league. So I think the conditions are bad for quarterbacks, but you should be able to get a decent amount of fantasy points just throwing the ball 30 times or whatever. So the other factor here is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are out. So you have D'Ernest Johnson being their lead back. So it's not even like we're thinking they're going to run the ball more because their starting QB is out. We'll have to wait and see what they do there. But I do think that it's a decent spot for Keenum.
What about you, Ben? It sounds like you're all right with Keenum, and it sounds like you bet the Browns again today. So
I did. I was a week early. That's what I'm telling myself. I really do think that Case Keenum actually is in a kind of a better spot. He's getting a ton of weapons back compared to what Baker was dealing with. And yeah, the running backs, it's not good with no Chubb and no Hunt. And Cleveland runs the ball at a super high rate. They run the ball 50% of the time. That's third in the NFL. So they're a team that wants to run the ball. I still think they'll do that. But if it devolves and he has to throw the ball, I feel pretty confident that Case Keenum can get some volume, can make some plays. We've seen this guy perform just fine, and I expect nothing else tonight. He should be okay.
Because we have 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure everyone's watching gets the questions answered that they're looking for. And obviously, if you have the badge, if you're a member here and you have questions, I always try and get to them first. We're pressed for time, but you can hit that join down below if you want. Honestly, no pressure one way or another. It doesn't affect me a bit. But if you want to get the custom emojis, the badges, be part of the team, I do it. I got it. Why not? Do the $2.99 a month because it's fun. But yeah, you do that, and I'll always see them easier with the badges next to it, just so you know. But anyway, who would you say your favorite captain is in the large field tournament today, Ben?
So, I mean, I always think that the quarterbacks are the obvious target, but I think that D'Ernest Johnson is going to fill into a sizable role in this backfield. I don't know exactly what we're going to get out of the backfield in terms of pass catchers. That seems more like Felton. But from what I remember with D'Ernest Johnson, it's not like he can't catch the ball. And I think the carries are going to be predominantly on him. So he's a guy, if you're looking for a pretty cheap captain, because all these guys besides the quarterbacks are pretty cheap, I don't mind going there. I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of the major players on this Browns offense.
Last year when Nick Chubb got hurt against the Cowboys, D'Ernest Johnson went 13 for 95. Rushing, of course, we haven't seen a ton of passing work from him, but he ran 7 routes last week to Demetri Felton's 10. It's not that big of a difference. Alex, talk to me about the pass catchers here. You have Odell Beckham, who he's playing, but we really don't know what capacity. Jarvis Landry's activated off the IR, his first game in a month. We don't know what capacity he's going to be playing at. I'm assuming he'll be okay. And if there's wind, this might be a spot where Keenum looks to pepper him. I do have some over props on Landry for what it's worth. And then really you've got like Peoples-Jones and Higgins and those type of guys and then Hooper and David Njoku. They've just been a mess this year to predict.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off here by the guys I'm not going to play, I guess, because this is the first game we've seen Odell Beckham and Landry be healthy. That means some guys are going to get phased out. I think because Landry is back, Higgins' playing time is going to go way down. He only ran 6% of the routes in week 1 where Landry was active. It was only in the games that he was injured or not playing that Higgins saw the field a decent amount. And then Schwartz really started seeing his playing time go down a ton weeks 3 through 5, where Odell Beckham came back. So I think it's very risky to play those guys. My favorite prop, I'm just going to mention it now so you guys can get it while it's still up, is the Higgins unders. I got it at 22. So I think those guys. Nice. Thanks. I think those guys just aren't going to play a lot. And the other thing I'm looking at is less 2 tight end sets. So I think Harrison Bryant might play a little bit less, as well as Njoku. But that's kind of my read here.
Let me stick with you for a second and ask you this too, Alex, kind of a strategy question. If you're captaining like a Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon, or obviously a Dearness Johnson, what does the rest of your lineup look like? Like, are you cool going both quarterbacks still? Are you cool going with 2 receivers without their quarterback? Like, what are your limitations when you play the running back in the captain spot and he's not a premier pass catcher?
Well, I think you're just playing, if you have Johnson in the captain spot, you're playing for the Browns to win this game by a healthy amount. And that could be a situation where there's some Case Keenum touchdowns that get them up. So I definitely feel like Keenum plus a pass catcher from Cleveland is a decent way to build that. I might especially lean towards Bridgewater if I have Johnson as the captain, because that just means there's going to be more passing volume for Denver. So if there's a lot of rushing attempts for Cleveland.
Ben, what about you on that same question?
Yeah, I mean, I already said that's where I was going, and it's because I like the Browns in the game by kind of a healthy margin. I think that sets it up. They want to run. Like, I don't think that with Case Keenum, and regardless of who they have there, the Browns are going to stick to their identity, in my opinion. They're going to try to run the ball and lean on their defense. Say what you want, and they definitely have some problems in the secondary. They're still getting a good amount of pressure. If you look at the sack metrics and pressure metrics, Cleveland is still consistently getting after quarterbacks. So I think they still want to control that. They are getting a little healthier on the line. I think they're going to lean on the running game, try to salt this game away, make some, intermediate plays with Case Keenum, but I don't think they're going to take a radically different approach to their offensive game tonight.
So then let's talk about the other pass catchers, Ben, where you've got everyone that we just talked about with Alex. Do you have any read or any lean towards what we get out of Landry and Beckham, or any lean towards which tight end is better today, or which peripheral or auxiliary wide receiver is better today? It's kind of a mess.
It's definitely a mess. I'd be certainly lying if I said, oh, this one guy really stands above the rest. I think you can play some small edges, and there is a recency bias, particularly with Odell. I think Landry's in a different, we haven't seen him at all. He's coming back. To me, with Odell, a lot of people have seen him and he's done nothing. He wasn't expected to play. I think we all kind of were set up to build without him, and we got that news. So to me, he's the one that's more aggressive on both ways. I think he's more likely to leave this game and doesn't have it because he's actually injured. But I also think he's more likely to be not on people's minds, where I think we all knew Landry was trending towards playing a lot earlier in the week.
What are you doing with the running backs? Obviously, you like Dearness Johnson in the captain spot. Totally understandable. And we're going to build a lineup in just a minute too, so be sure to stick with us up to lock. and I'll do it prior to that. Make sure we give us some good enough cushion there before we get to 8:20. Still 14 minutes to go. What are you doing with Dearness Johnson? I'm sorry, like guys like Dimitri Felton, and I mean, I have to ask you about John Kelly too.
Well, of course, John Kelly. It wouldn't be a show without John Kelly. These guys are going to work into the game, but I still think it's maybe more, for Felton on a change of pace, third down and whatnot, and John Kelly, who really knows. So you can absolutely pair a couple of these guys up if you want to consolidate the running game, similar to what we talked about with the Broncos, but it's even less salary, and you can work them into lineups. I think that Dearness Johnson by far has the highest chance of really making a significant impact, but you can absolutely go to these other Browns guys because it's going to be a backfield by committee in some regard.
Yeah, and there's word too, Alex, that John Kelly will be. Why does it look like Tyler's in a wind turbine right now?
Oh, what?
Has he looked like that? Is that intentional, or is he just in a black hole?
Yeah, I see more like Blair Witch Project than wind turbines.
I meant like a inside of like a jet engine, right? You don't look. It looks like he's. That was really weird.
Now it's like Silence of the Lambs. I don't like that. Good.
No. See that big fat person, Alex. Dimitri Felton, the Stefanski was saying that like John Kelly could be used as the primary backup to Dearness Johnson, and Felton could be used more as a receiver who could also line up out of the backfield as well. Maybe there's some upside there.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that Felton is intriguing. Now, he hasn't had a carry in the NFL from what I understand. So I'm not really expecting him to get that backup work spelling John Kelly Johnson, but that doesn't mean he's not a good play. He has played in each of the last 5 games running routes. And last game, he ran 28% of dropbacks. He was running a route. Johnson was at 18%. So that kind of shows that if it's a passing situation, I think Felton's going to be the guy out there. And then John Kelly, we can't really pass him over too, because if the Browns do run the ball a ton of times, a lot of that cleanup work is going to be Kelly. So I do see a situation where all 3 of these guys could be in the winning lineup tonight.
Wow. All right.
Not necessarily together. I just mean like all 3.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
That would be wild.
At first, that's how I took it. And then I was like, wait a second. I know what he's trying to say. That would be tough to get all of them in the same lineup that wins it. But yeah, Justin Wills says 7,100 left in one lineup. Listen, there's some crazy stuff you can do today that could actually work. I'll tell you something that isn't crazy though, using the promo code Curry, all caps, like the basketball player out there in Golden State, because, well, you get Awesemo plus platinum for the entire week, every single sport, all of the tools built by the man wearing the cash hat and the aviator glasses, who's won a lot of money doing them. That's made him the #1 ranked player out there. All of that for 50, I almost said for free, 50% off the entire week using the promo code Curry. Just go to awesemo.com/promos. Click that promo, get in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, esports, everything. If they have contests out there, we got premium content for it. All the tools you need: boom, bust tool, ownership, player projections, top stack, lineup builder, fantasy cruncher add-on, boom, all of it. 50% off Awesemo plus platinum for the first week. If you want to check it out, use that promo code Curry. All right, let's go. Rest of Cleveland, Ben, kicker, defense, anyone you haven't touched on, anyone you think that people need to know about tonight, even if it's just kind of a sprinkle them in type play, but could be in a winning lineup.
Yeah, I certainly think, as we talked about the Broncos defense, the Browns defense, they can get pressure. Bridgewater, when he was forced, to really, you mentioned, and it's a good point, that he has opened it up a little bit, less conservative. That's a great thing if you're playing a defense. You want taking risks, you want taking chances, because you're looking for turnovers. So I don't mind that. We did have a question from Brady, a super chat earlier, that said best bet for a FanDuel cash lineup. It's so soft over there that I think you're really going to multiple quarterbacks. You're going to Sutton. You're going to, for me, Dearness Johnson, those types. Salary is not a constraint. And when you're talking cash, you're really just going highest projected players. So over there, it is extremely soft. It's basically play whoever you want.
Absolutely. And Brian just asked, how does he get into the Awesemo Discord? I forgot to mention, if you are a premium sub, we have the Discord now too, which is really cool. We're doing a lot of great stuff. And welcome to, where is he? Twisted Reality Gaming. Welcome to Team Awesemo. I caught that late, but we still caught it. Patrick or Gordon on DK Cash, super chat. DraftKings Cash, Ben, Tim Patrick, or Melvin Gordon?
It's pretty close. I would go with Gordon, but it's kind of a toss-up. I like the more consistent floor. He's going to get the ball. It's automatic because he's a running back. We have him projected for almost identical outputs.
All right, Alex, close out the Browns here, and we're going to build a lineup.
All right. Yeah, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is always a home run threat. So I think he's still in play. I think his playing time should be somewhat safe here, even though both Beckham and Landry are going to be active. And then Hooper and Njoku, I think, haven't been playing an impressive amount. It might go down even a tick tonight with Beckham coming back, or I mean Landry coming back, but we got to really consider anyone that's going to be out there a decent amount.
All right. We got 8 minutes to go. Let's make this happen, build a lineup, and give you our favorite bets for the night. You can still get those bets in after, like right after we lock anyway. You're still going to be there until kickoff. So hopefully you get in on them. And one more call. Can we get to 500 likes? We're at 407, 1,500 people watching, 8 minutes to go. If you haven't done so, takes a second, and we love you for it. We need 93 likes, 92 likes to get to 500 and close this show out in fashion, in style. All right, Ben, start it off, captain spot. Who are we going with?
So in a game like this, I think we can certainly spend up the captain. Let's go with Cortland Sutton. I think all three of us think that he's got some real ability. We're gonna burn some cap, but we have so much savings to get to.
I like it. Alex, we got 5 flex spots, $7,000 per. What do you got?
Man, wait, who's our captain? Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go with Bridgewater, because definitely you'd want him to stack there.
All right. I think we can still get different elsewhere. So I'm going to go with Dearness Johnson. I think this offensive line is too good. And he's still going to produce in this matchup. Give me Dearness Johnson. Ben, we have around 6,500 per player, 3 to go.
All right, well, let's get in a pass catcher then. I think Odell starts to change it up here. That's a big risk that could ruin our lineup. So we've been very conservative with the first 3 guys. They're going to be very popular. Let's throw Odell in there and hope that he can give us something.
All right, listen, if you're a premium sub and you can't get in the Discord, if you're in our Slack, just ask in our Slack, and the link's pinned everywhere. So, yeah, who'd you go with, Ben?
Odell.
All right, you got Odell in there. Alex, that gives us 6,300 per player. We're cruising here. Who's next?
Well, all right, we got this one's it's a little bit tricky. I kind of like playing a kicker or defense tonight, but I don't know if this is the right lineup for that. I guess since we have Beckham, maybe just throwing in Keenum to get some correlation there makes sense.
Let's do it. That gives us 3,200 left. I mean, really, you could go with the Browns defense, and then you just assume that Bridgewater and Sutton have to air it out all game. Granted, Sutton's in the captain spot, but you could do that. You could go with my boy Kendall Hinton too. You got to go Hinton, right? Let's do it. We'll leave 1,200 on the table. Kendall Hinton it is, baby. Let's do it. I like it. You know what's hilarious? That's the same exact lineup that Matt Kajeski and I built today, and we switched on and off. So odd.
It's fate.
It is. DM Brian asked in chat, how hurt is Odell? I have no idea, dude. Not a cash game play. I think he's a perfectly good tournament play. All right, so we are 4 likes away from 500. We'll get there. Appreciate you. Let's go and talk our favorite bets of the night. We still got 1,400 people watching, so stick with us till the end here, and let's bring ourselves some good luck. Also, let's hit on some good bets. I like using OddsShopper in the Shop NFL tab. Ben, it's time to do a little window shopping, and here's what I mean. You go to shop NFL tab, you go to NBA or whatever. You can sort by expected win rate. You can sort by expected ROI. And using Alex and using Alex and the Awesemo projections, we have got this beautiful thing where we give you where the best, or like I said, expected win rate, ROI, but also where the best bet is. So like if you have different lines in a bunch of different books in your state, we're going to tell you which the best one to hit is. And a lot of times it's going to be a pretty significant difference. I'll show you one in just a second, but the feature's huge. Oh, and you have the prop party parlay now that throws in the best parlay prop parlays that you can get, and you can just throw them straight into a lineup. It's a phenomenal tool.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's the opportunity to really, we talked about this a little last week, but I just want to reemphasize, it's not just that we're showing you who's the best things. It saves so much time. These games, guys are being ruled in, guys are being ruled out. The lines are changing. All this is syncing in real time for us. So you're able to go here, filter by teams on the left, sort by teams on the right, pick what you want to look at, and boom, it's presented to you in a nice, easy, readable way. And then you see which book. You go to your books, you find your lines, and it's as simple as that, quick and easy. So in a game like this tonight, I know for me, I'm just going to get to it, Lofty. My favorite bet is Dearness Johnson's over in the rushing yards. That's a prop that I actually found later in the day because of this tool. And the more I looked into it, the more I liked. I think the volume is going to be there. We have the line at 55.5. It's one of our best expected ROIs tonight. I think he's going to be very, very busy on the ground. And we had a super chat asking about must plays in cash. Outside of the quarterbacks, I think that Dearness Johnson belongs in those lineups. So give me the over on his prop tonight. I think I'm going to credit the assist to OddsShopper, hopefully when this cashes.
I love it. By the way, everything at OddsShopper is entirely free. You pay for nothing. It's just a great tool. And oddshopper.com. But the other thing, and then Alex, I want to get your bet, is it's not just easy, but it's also convenient. Slightly different thing in the sense that if you're searching through all of these bets, like rushing props on a book and then receiving props on other, this just throws the ones with the highest expected ROI or win rate in there for you. And you can start at the top and work your way down and see which ones we have projected much higher or much lower than the props, and then find the best bet to bet them at, or best book to bet them at. Alex, what do you got for us?
So I love that Johnson over. I'm also kind of thinking this game having a lot of wind. Not only is it going to be bad for passing, but Odell Beckham Jr. and Landry coming, both being on the field should reduce playing time for other wide receivers. So I'm taking that Higgins under that I mentioned earlier. Now, this is a good one, the line shot, because it's 23.5 on PointsBet and 21.5 on FanDuel. Unfortunately, I bet it on FanDuel before I checked this. So you live and you learn, but I think I feel very confident about the sitting.
I like that. Yeah, that's solid. I'm actually going to go on the opposite side of you for a different player. So kind of makes sense what you're doing and what I'm doing. I'm going over Jarvis Landry 43.5 receiving yards. I mean, if we think the win could be a problem, that's only going to benefit Jarvis Landry to begin with, because he's going to be getting a ton of those short and intermediate routes. We know that the quarterback like Case Keenum, who hasn't started a game since 2019, is going to look to get there as well. 43.5 receiving yards, minus 110 on FanDuel. And that's where I found it on OddsShopper. I was like, okay, it's 44.5 minus 120 on DraftKings. It was 44.5 minus 130 at another book. Minus 110, 43.5. Clearly the best bet you're going to get is at FanDuel for this one. I think Jarvis Landry is less banged up than Beckham because he was activated. There's been no word or anything of limitations, whereas Beckham had to warm up to see if he was even going to play. So give me the over on Landry. That'll do it for us. Thank you to Tyler Xander for producing. Hit Ben up at JazzRaz DFS on the Twitter, Alex at Awesemo DFS, myself at Laffy_D. Good luck tonight. We'll catch you back here tomorrow, 11 Eastern, NFL. On the contrary, Alex Baker, myself, and Neil Orfield, Millie Maker winner. Maybe we'll do it again this week. We'll talk to you later. Peace.